I sat at my desk, sunlight streaming through the window, illuminating the pages of my personal project, a heartfelt exploration of my journey through childhood trauma. I had poured my essence into this work, hoping it would serve as a beacon for others navigating their own shadows. After what felt like an eternity of hesitance, I hit send on an email to my mother, pulsating with excitement. I longed for her validation, her acknowledgement of the woman I was striving to become. But my hope crumbled moments later when her response arrived, as icy as a winter's gust. "Interesting, Sophia," she wrote, the dismissive tone cutting through my enthusiasm. "But maybe try focusing on something less personal. People want practical advice, not your old stories." The words landed like a sudden storm, plunging me back into the depths of my childhood. Memories rushed forward unbidden, each carrying its own weight of sadness. I was reminded of countless family gatherings where my younger brother, the golden child, basked in praise while I floated in the background, unseen and uncelebrated. The suffocating feeling of inadequacy crawled over me, a shroud I thought I had shed long ago. That knot in my stomach tightened painfully, pulling me into a familiar emotional swamp. I coughed back a sob, a silent rebellion against all those feelings I had buried. There I was, the invisible daughter again, struggling for air in the depths of heartache. Each neglected tear echoed through my mind, invoking memories of my mother's impatience. "Don't be so dramatic, Sophie," she would say, her dismissive tone pushing my emotions aside like they were mere annoyances. But in that moment of despair, a whisper echoed softly within me. In the depths of my shadows, I found my light. The phrase flickered through my consciousness, compelling me to rethink my emotional state. This turmoil might not signify weakness, but an invitation to rediscover myself, to delve deep into the shadows rather than shy away. I began to see how my feelings, though painful, could be guideposts on a path of self-discovery. My years of training as a psychologist specializing in childhood trauma felt suddenly inadequate against my unresolved issues. Despite my credentials, I often questioned my self-worth and struggled to validate my emotional experiences. How was I to guide others when my own journey was still shrouded in doubt and fear? Yet, in the wake of my mother's email, I felt something shift within me. Perhaps this tumultuous wave of emotion was not an end, but the beginning of a transformative journey. A call to face the very shadows I had avoided for years. As I marinated in this realization, I took a deep, steadying breath. The chaos surrounding me began to feel less daunting. This emotional revival became an awakening. The need to peel back layers of familial expectations and perception loomed large. I knew it was time to break the cycle of invisibility and forge a new narrative, one where I could claim my voice unapologetically. The journey ahead was daunting, but it shimmered with the promise of authenticity and self-acceptance. My shadows were not just remnants of a painful past, but potential pathways to a renewed, brighter self. I was finally ready to take that first step. As I settled into the swirling sea of my thoughts, memories from my childhood began to surface, vividly shaping the landscape of my emotional turbulence. Each recollection wrapped around me like a blanket, warm in its familiarity, yet suffocating with the weight of unresolved pain. My past called out to me, demanding attention, revealing the roots of the inner turmoil I had long ignored. There I was, a 5-year-old child cradling my teddy bear, feeling the burn of fresh tears on my cheeks after scraping my knee at the playground. That moment remains etched in my mind, crystallizing a painful truth. "Stop crying." "Sophie," my mother had admonished dismissively, choosing that instant to divert her attention to my younger brother, the beloved golden child. She swept him up in warm praise, celebrating his every accomplishment while I faded into the background. Each of those moments reaffirmed my growing belief. My feelings were insignificant. My worth depended on meeting others' expectations. My father sat quietly watching these dynamics unfold. His passive presence did little to disrupt the oppressive atmosphere. "Don't make a scene, Sophia," he'd murmur whenever frustration sparked within me. Each reminder chipped away at my resolve to voice emotions, leading me to equate silence with safety. I learned early on that true expression only stirred trouble, so instead, I plastered on a facade of perfection, burying my needs beneath layers of compliance. With every gathering, my brother's triumphs became a dagger to my heart, shoving me further into invisibility. The accolades and affirmations he amassed from both parents solidified the narrative that I could never measure up. As praise rained upon him, I cultivated a conflicting inner dialogue. I must remain silent, perfect, unnoticed. "You are inadequate. You will never be enough," became a haunting refrain, woven into my very being. Memories of those holiday dinners stung with the familiarity of neglect. Though the table was set with laughter and joy, I perched silently on the edge, watching as my brother basked in the glow of attention. My tears tasted bitter, untouched and unrecognized, the echoes of my hurt muffled beneath the cheers that celebrated someone else. Little did I know, these moments would forge a complex web, the intricate belief that my identity hinged on my brother's successes and my ability to meet impossible standards. In those deeply woven recollections, I detected a deeper truth. Beyond the pain, I felt a spark of resilience in my spirit. That little girl, yearning to be seen, was me, her innocence trapped by a web of demands and expectations. I grieved for her, longing to extend compassion towards that version of myself who wore her emotions bare, unafraid of vulnerability. "You deserve to be heard," I whispered in my mind, vowing to reclaim that lost voice. This reaffirmation led to a pivotal realization. My emotional scars could become my roadmap, not merely reminders of hurt, but guiding beacons towards healing. I contemplated the possibility of revisiting these memories, not to drown in despair, but to unearth the treasures hidden in their depths. These fragments of past emotions could hold the keys to transforming my pain into wisdom. As I turned to gentle introspection, I began to write. My journal became a sanctuary where I could explore these emotions, the frustration, the sorrow, the isolation. With every word, I liberated pieces of myself that had been captured and sidelined. Each page burst forth, with my thoughts untethered, paving the way to reclaim my voice. I envisioned entering a tranquil space in my mind, a haven where my inner child awaited with open arms. In that sanctuary, I embraced her fears, caressed her sadness, and celebrated her joys. "You are enough just as you are," I assured her, spreading warmth over her fragile heart. I no longer wanted those childhood beliefs to cast shadows over my present, nor dictate the authenticity of my future. Gradually, acceptance consolidated within me. I resolved to honor every shred of my emotional tapestry. No longer would I hide in the alleys of my mind, caged by the beliefs that defined my identity. Those notions carried no power over me. Instead, I positioned myself to step into the light of self-compassion. In this burgeoning awareness, I discovered that healing was not about erasing the past, but integrating it with my present. The shadows in my story transformed from burdens to bridges, pathways, leading toward illumination. With every insight gathered from my reflections, I felt a sense of strength blossoming within. My journey ahead would be filled with challenges, but I felt the invigorating surge of hope propelling me forward. "You are worthy of love," I chanted softly, a newfound belief rising within me like dawn breaking over the horizon. I could step boldly into each day, claim my individuality, and forge connections on my own terms. As I embarked on this healing journey, the memories of my past no longer felt like chains, but crumbling walls that invited me to cross into a realm of clarity and self-discovery. I would no longer be beholden to the expectations defined by my family. Instead, I was ready to reconstruct my identity, a story of resilience, tenderness, and the promise of liberation. One quiet afternoon at the community center where I volunteered, I found myself wandering into a neglected corner filled with dusty old books. Among them, a worn copy of Carl Jung's Man and His Symbols caught my eye. I had always respected Jungian psychology, but had never deeply engaged with it. As I flipped through the pages, I felt drawn to his insights on the shadow, individuation, and the inner child. These concepts seemed to resonate profoundly with my own experiences of trauma and healing. Jung's idea that the shadow encompasses the parts of ourselves that we reject sparked something in me. This revelation illuminated a path I hadn't yet considered. Could my emotional scars, which I viewed as only painful reminders, also provide insight into a more integrated self? The truth of this idea ignited a flicker of hope within me. Perhaps acknowledging and embracing my hidden aspects could lead to profound understanding and healing. The more I read, the clearer it became that my identity had been shaped by my family's expectations and my brother's achievements. I was not alone in feeling this way. Many others grappled with similar challenges. This realization propelled me forward, urging me to confront my own shadows rather than flee from them. With renewed motivation, I began journaling about my relationship with my mother and the sense of inadequacy that arose in her presence. Each entry helped me articulate my pain, creating a dialogue with my inner self. Why do I feel I have to earn love? I questioned. And as the answer unfurled, I understood. Because you think your worth is conditional. That night, I initiated my first foray into shadow work. I created a calm space in my home, bathed in soft light, and invited stillness. Closing my eyes, I envisioned my younger self, waiting and yearning for acknowledgement. "What do you need to say?" I whispered. The floodgates opened, and lost memories surged forth. Hurt, disappointment, and longing, all wrapped in a blanket of comfort I had denied her. In that intimate moment, I embraced the sorrow. Tears streamed down my cheeks, but they were cleansing. I could forgive the parts of myself that had been conditioned to hide for so long. The little girl who felt invisible, the teenager who sought validation, and the adult who carried the expectations of others. "I see you," I affirmed softly, holding space for her emotions. Empowered by this connection, I adopted affirmations that resonated deeply with Jung's principles. I embrace all that I am. My darkness does not diminish my light. These affirmations became my guiding stars, reminders that acknowledging my pain was a step toward healing rather than a setback. With this newfound clarity, I felt more whole than I had in years. The walls that had confined me began to crumble under the weight of my revelations. I was ready to acknowledge my past, not as a burden, but as a foundation for my growth. My shadows transformed from chains to pathways through which I could reclaim my strength and authenticity. I learned that engaging with my shadow was not about succumbing to darkness, but integrating it into my understanding of self. By confronting my vulnerabilities, I opened doors to greater authenticity and connection, both with myself and with others. As I immersed myself in this journey, I realized that recognizing my past did not mean erasing it. Rather, it meant weaving it into the fabric of who I was becoming. My story, once filled with confusion, now held the promise of resilience and empowerment. I was ready to step boldly into each day, reclaiming my individuality and asserting my worth on my own terms. With every intention set on this exhilarating path of self-discovery, I recognized my shadows no longer as figures lurking in the corners, but as guides toward illuminating truths. I was becoming not just a survivor of my past, but an architect of a future rich with potential. With each insight gained from Jung's wisdom, I could see that my journey was far from over. It was merely the beginning of a beautiful reclamation of myself. In the wake of my enlightening journey with Jung's wisdom, a whirlwind of emotional clarity prompted me to delve even deeper into the rich tapestry of my psyche. Each day became an opportunity to journal, a sacred practice that allowed me to explore and confront the shadows I had previously avoided. As I wrote, that familiar rush of understanding echoed in my mind, a fierce commitment to reclaim my identity. By now, I had come to recognize the concept of the complex from Jung's teachings, a pivotal revelation that revealed the intricate web of emotions woven into my personality. A complex is a set of feelings, thoughts, and memories that profoundly influence our behavior. My self-reflection illuminated a particularly stubborn complex, my people-pleaser identity, a defense mechanism constructed to shield me from the pain of rejection and inadequacy that stemmed from my childhood. I typed fervently, pouring out my frustrations and revelations. Why have I allowed my need for approval to dictate my actions? I mused. This question weighed heavily on my heart, revealing the truth that my worth had long been tethered to others' satisfaction. I replayed moments in my life where I diminished myself to accommodate others, burying my own needs beneath layers of obligation. Memories rushed back. Meetings at work where I swallowed my dissent for the sake of harmony. Conversations with friends where my voice faded into the background. Every time I stifled my truth, I empowered that complex, allowing it to dictate my relationships. The realization felt like a lightning bolt through my mind, illuminating a pattern I now was determined to break. It's time to embrace your authentic self, I reminded myself, as I crafted my affirmations that echoed Jung's teachings. I am worthy of love and respect just as I am. I began envisioning how to navigate the complexities of my identity, every step intentional, every choice a declaration of self-worth. One evening, I initiated a deep dive into shadow work. Lighting a candle and sinking into a quiet space, I closed my eyes and conjured the image of my people-pleasing self, standing before me like a character in a story. "What do you need from me?" I asked. The response flowed forth like a river breaking free from constraints. "I want to be acknowledged. I want to express my desires and say no without guilt." In that moment, tears streamed down my face, flowing like a release of years of pent-up emotion. I affirmed, "You are enough, just as you are." With these words, I began dismantling the guilt that had long encased my heart, recognizing that my authenticity was not contingent on pleasing others. With resolve coursing through me, I embarked on a mission to express myself authentically. I started asserting my opinions during work discussions, engaging in the back and forth I had often shied away from. Each time I opened my mouth to speak my mind, it felt like a small act of liberation. I practiced saying no when asked to take on responsibilities that overwhelmed me, embracing discomfort as a necessary part of growth. At a family gathering, a significant test of my newfound resolve emerged. As my mother leaned into her familiar script of dismissiveness, suggesting I should be more accommodating, I found my voice rising. "Mom, I appreciate your input, but I need you to understand that I am setting boundaries for my well-being." As my words hung in the air, a profound silence ensued. I felt vulnerable yet strong, knowing that I had asserted my truth. This confrontation opened the door for deeper conversations about boundaries within my family. I discovered the courage to share openly about how their expectations shaped my feelings of inadequacy. Their initial surprise evolved into contemplation as we navigated this uncharted territory together. The process was not without its difficulties. Phantoms of old patterns periodically arose, coaxing me back into silence when anxiety threatened to overwhelm me. But with every moment of doubt, I repeated my affirmations. I embrace all that I am. I realized that each step I took was a commitment to integrating my shadows, not denying them. As I engaged with this self-exploration, I felt hopeful about the prospect of transformation. I was, actively reshaping my emotional landscape, peeling back the layers of my identity molded by others. I began to experience a heightened sense of agency in my life, a newfound ability to choose my path rather than be swept along by external demands. I embraced my past for what it was, a complex intertwining of experiences that shaped me, yet no longer had to define me. My story pivoted from one of weakness to one of strength. I was no longer a passive observer, but an active participant in my healing. Every choice I made resonated with authenticity, each moment reinforcing my commitment to living fully and honestly. With every breakthrough came profound realizations that empowered me further. I began to see myself not just as a survivor of my past, but as the architect of my future. I was dismantling and reconstructing the narrative of my life, one where I could honor my truth while still being compassionate and understanding toward others. The process was exhilarating, transformative, a journey through light and shadow where both parts of myself coexisted harmoniously. Confronting my complexes illuminated the path ahead, leading me toward deeper connections, authentic relationships, and healthier boundaries. Navigating the rich landscape of my emotions, I felt excitement coursing through my veins. The walls of silence that once towered over me crumbled, revealing new pathways where I could explore my complex self, loving every facet of my being, embracing the darkness as a vital part of my journey to wholeness. Emboldened by every step I took, I realized that self-discovery was not merely a destination, but a continuous unfolding, a dynamic dance between light and shadow that would enrich my life's narrative. And so I remained committed to this journey, empowered to reclaim the numerous facets of my identity, embracing the complexity that lay within. I stepped forward confidently, knowing that I was becoming more than just a collection of shadows. I was, at long last, becoming unapologetically me. As the weeks rolled on, I found myself navigating the landscape of transformation with renewed vigor. Every day became an opportunity to embrace my authentic self, but reflection awakened a deeper yearning within me. I felt compelled to commit to authenticity, not just as an idea, but as a radical decision that resonated within my very core. The pivotal moment came during a quiet therapy session where I finally voiced this desire. I want to integrate my shadow completely, I told my therapist, feeling both fearful and empowered. It's not enough to just recognize it. I want to breathe life into it, to love and learn from all parts of myself. She smiled, understanding the weight of my intention. Integration isn't just acknowledging your shadow, it's about creating space for it in your life. Are you ready to engage with all that you are, embracing the entirety of your being? I am. I affirmed, my heart racing. I envisioned a powerful act of integration, a commitment to living fully and honestly with every facet of my identity. That evening, inspiration struck as I took pen to paper, writing a heartfelt letter to my shadow self. I poured out my fears, aspirations, and reflections. Dear Shadow, I see you, waiting in the depths of my heart. I have long considered you a burden, but now I recognize you're a part of my journey, a vital piece of who I am. I want to learn, to understand, to love you fully. Together, let's forge a path toward wholeness. You remind me to stand tall, to express my desires, and to claim my space in this world. Thank you for being with me. Let us walk this journey together. Each word felt liberating, a step toward fulfilling my commitment to integration. As I wrote, my perspective shifted. I could embrace my shadow as a source of strength rather than a wound to conceal. In the days that followed, I began actively, engaging with my shadow through daily practices. Moments of anxiety or discomfort became invitations to explore. Rather than shying away from difficult emotions, I welcomed them. During a team presentation at work, for instance, I faced a familiar surge of fear. But instead of allowing that fear to stifle me, I transformed it into motivation. Your voice matters, I whispered to myself as I prepared to speak, channeling my shadow's energy into courage. With newfound clarity, I made a breakthrough during a team meeting. I believe I have valuable insights to share, I announced, surprised by the strength in my own voice. As I spoke, confidence surged within me. I was articulating my ideas, and for the first time, I felt liberated rather than paralyzed by fear. The thrill of expressing my authentic self in that moment flowed through me, a rich tapestry woven from both fear and affirmation. The integration of my shadow also reshaped my relationships. My willingness to be open invited those around me to reciprocate. I began sharing my experiences with friends, opening up about my struggles and triumphs. Thank you for trusting me, one friend exclaimed, her appreciation brightening the moment. Your authenticity inspires us all to do the same. In these exchanges, I found a profound connection. By being unapologetically me, I paved the way for others to reveal their own truths. The ultimate test came during a family gathering, a space that had previously felt fraught with tension and expectation. Armed with my intention to embrace authenticity, I entered with a sense of quiet confidence. As dinner unfolded, discussions turned to life choices and achievements. With the vulnerable energy swirling in the room, I decided to share my journey openly. I appreciate the love and care you all offer, but I need to address how your expectations weigh on me, I said, my heart pounding. To my surprise, the family fell silent, processing my words. Instead of backing down, I pressed on. It's essential for me to cultivate my own path while navigating our relationships. I hope we can create deeper connections together. The moment hung in the air, heavy with the unresolved tensions of the past. To my relief, my mother broke the silence, her eyes glistening with understanding. I didn't realize you felt that way, she began, her voice tinged with vulnerability. This opening catalyzed deeper conversations, ones rooted in honesty and healing. As the evening unfolded, laughter replaced the silence, along with tears and shared stories from our familial past. The emotional landscape shifted, allowing us to address the complexities that had lingered in the shadows for so long. The walls I had felt encumbered by began to dissolve, revealing pathways we could traverse together. Driving home that night, I felt a wave of calm wash over me. My family's openness had illuminated a new horizon, reinforcing my commitment to authenticity, not just within myself, but also as a way to invite healing into our relationships. I was not merely navigating my shadows, I was integrating them with love and compassion, weaving them into the very fabric of my life. I reflected on how far I'd come, from feeling invisible to confidently asserting my truth. The act of embracing my shadows turned out to be a turning point that opened my heart to deeper connections, both with myself and others. I began to understand that true authenticity requires constant attention, a commitment to nurturing all aspects of myself, even the uncomfortable ones. Emboldened by this revelation, I resolved to carry this mindset forward. With each interaction, I could choose authenticity over facade, vulnerability over silence. My journey was far from over, but I felt empowered to embrace the complexities of my transformation, allowing them to guide me. In that space, I realized I was not just surviving. I was thriving in my beautifully intertwined existence. As I approached this next chapter, I welcomed the lessons that lay ahead. Life, rich with unpredictability, had transformed into a vibrant canvas where I could color my experiences with bold strokes of authenticity and self-love. I was ready to turn the page, knowing the dance between light and shadow would enrich my journey as I continued to bloom into the person I was always meant to be. A radiant embodiment of my truest self. As the days passed since my heartfelt family gathering, I entered a vibrant phase of transformation, invigorated by the promise of living an authentic life. I was eager to practice freedom in my daily interactions, freedom to express my emotions, to set my boundaries, and to embrace my truest self without reservation. This newfound commitment wasn't merely personal. It encompassed nurturing my connections with others, demonstrating how authenticity could weave a tapestry of deeper relationships. With a heart full of hope, I revisited how I engaged with colleagues at work. No longer did I want meetings to be arenas of silence. Now, I envisioned these spaces as platforms for bold expression and collective growth. My mission was clear. I intended to stream my authentic self into every interaction. During a recent brainstorming session, anxiety swirled within me as I prepared to share my thoughts. This was a familiar emotional terrain, but this time felt different. I took a moment to reconnect with my breath and remind myself, you have a voice that matters. When the opportunity arose, I raised my hand. I believe we should explore an alternative approach for this project, I confidently stated. To my surprise, my colleagues turned their attention toward me, intrigued. I felt a sense of empowerment wash over me as I laid out my ideas. With each idea presented, I witnessed the dynamic shift in the room. My contributions encouraged a dialogue that enlivened the team's creativity. The thrill of expressing my authentic self surged through me, breaking the inertia of fear and self-doubt. As ideas flowed freely around the table, I no longer felt like a ghost in the room. I belonged here. My perspectives enriched the conversation, and my confidence became a bridge that connected me to my team. Encouraged by this experience, I shifted my focus to nurturing my personal relationships. I realized that my commitment to authenticity extended beyond professional spaces. I began sharing my true feelings and experiences with friends, intentionally moving away from the habit of masking my emotions. During a coffee date with a close friend, I responded genuinely when she asked how I was doing. Honestly, I've navigated some intense emotions, I disclosed. To my relief, she leaned in, nodding. I appreciate your honesty. Sharing that helps deepen our friendship. This exchange opened up a genuine dialogue between us, allowing vulnerability to blossom. Each interaction became a dance where I chose authenticity over facade, vulnerability over silence. This was freedom in practice. On occasions when my needs were overlooked, I expressed my boundaries firmly yet lovingly. I'd love to help, but I need to prioritize my personal space right now, I would say gently, establishing parameters while maintaining respect for my friendships. This commitment to authenticity felt liberating as relationships flourished within this framework. Open conversations birthed deeper connections filled with compassion and understanding, inviting others to share their truths in return. As I practiced this engaging openness, I delved into activities that resonated with my evolving self. I embraced creative pursuits like art therapy, journaling workshops, and community volunteering, each experience serving as a canvas for self-expression. These activities allowed me to step outside the shadows of expectation and explore uncharted territories of personal fulfillment. Art became particularly therapeutic. Paintbrush in hand, I poured my emotions onto the canvas, each stroke embodying my journey from hurt to healing. The colors danced vibrantly, celebrating the full spectrum of my experiences. Each piece created felt like a cathartic release, while simultaneously inviting reflection on my continued growth. Through these creative endeavors, I discovered a supportive community among fellow creatives, each person weaving their vulnerability into their art. Together, we nurtured an environment of acceptance, encouraging one another as we explored our identities more deeply. As each day unfolded, I found myself flourishing. I understood that this journey, though transformative, required continuous reflection and balance. Episodes of fear and doubt lingered, moments when old voices echoed in my mind, insisting that I should revert to the status quo. "What if you're not good enough?" they would whisper. Yet, I turned to my affirmations with renewed commitment. I am enough. I embrace both light and shadow, and I allow each part of me to matter, I would reaffirm, grounding myself in the belief that my worth is inherent. Despite occasional challenges, I persevered. I learned that freedom didn't only mean shedding the past. It meant welcoming every aspect of myself and weaving them into the life I was building. I recognized that true freedom came from honoring my full, authentic expression. I had shifted from merely surviving to actively thriving, navigating the complexities of my transformation with grace and courage. I was learning to embrace uncertainty as opportunity, a vibrant dance between light and shadow, revealing the beauty inherent in each moment. Entering this next chapter, I remained receptive to the lessons that awaited me. My life now felt like a canvas painted boldly with strokes of authenticity and self-love. I was ready to embrace the unpredictability of life, knowing that the dance between shadows and light would enrich my journey as I continued to grow into the radiant embodiment of my truest self. With every step forward, each moment of courage reinforced my commitment to freedom, transforming my existence into an inspirational tapestry rich in connection, creativity, and love. I had become not just an architect of my own life, but a vibrant force, contributing to the lives of others, a celebration of resilience and the art of living fully. As the months unfolded, my journey of self-discovery deepened, transforming me into a person who not only embraced authenticity, but also sought to inspire others. I recognized the power of sharing my story, which could resonate with those grappling with their shadows and help foster a sense of community around healing. I began hosting workshops that invited others to engage in open discussions about vulnerability and growth. Each session was a safe space where participants could shed their emotional burdens, creating a culture of acceptance and understanding. "Hearing your journey makes me feel less alone," one participant shared, her tear-filled eyes reflecting the power of connection we fostered in every gathering. Witnessing this transformation in others invigorated me. My story was a thread in a larger tapestry of collective healing. Alongside this meaningful work, I realized the importance of addressing my own family dynamics more deeply. Inspired by the openness of my workshops, I ventured to share my experiences with my family, fostering honest conversations that sought to bridge previous divides. "I want us to understand each other better," I voiced during dinner one night, prompting an unexpected dialogue about our shared histories and unspoken feelings. With each discussion, the walls of silence began to crumble, replaced by an atmosphere thick with empathy and understanding. We could finally confront the complexities that had long been lingering beneath the surface. This shift became a turning point, opening up opportunities for connection and growth within my family. Among my newfound passions was the exploration of creative expression. Art had become a vital outlet for processing my emotions, and I invited others to join me in this journey. Whether through painting, writing, or music, we were finding solace in creativity. It was remarkable to see how art allowed us to communicate emotions that were difficult to express in words. Through community art sessions, I witnessed the transformative power of creativity firsthand. Participants poured their feelings into their creations, releasing pent-up emotions in a welcoming environment. "This is healing for my soul," one individual remarked, tears of relief streaming down their face as they connected with their own vulnerability. The creative center I envisioned took shape, becoming a cherished space where individuals could gather to support one another. It housed workshops that emphasized the importance of emotional expression, promoting resilience and solidarity. I felt the warmth of purpose as I facilitated gatherings, nurturing a community that thrived on authenticity and shared experiences. Each artistic endeavor became a building block in my legacy of healing. By inviting others to explore their creativity, I fostered connections that transcended individual struggles. I saw firsthand how expressing our truths could inspire solidarity and healing, where art became a powerful bridge linking our shared hopes and fears. Throughout this evolving journey, I found that authenticity was not a finite state, but an ongoing practice. I remained attuned to moments when old patterns of self-doubt emerged, whispering, "What if you're not enough?" In those instances, I would reaffirm my worth. I am enough. I embrace both light and shadow, and each part of me matters. The legacy of healing I was cultivating became not just about individual transformation, but also about collective empowerment. Together, we wove a rich tapestry of resilience, amplifying each other's voices and experiences. Reflecting on my journey thus far, I felt immense gratitude for every step taken, from the struggles that shaped me to the courage I found in embracing vulnerability. I was continuously learning that the dance between light and shadow enriched my existence, offering profound wisdom. As I prepared for upcoming workshops, I felt a familiar thrill, a commitment to fostering healing and connection radiated from the core of my being. I became acutely aware that my path allowed me not just to thrive, but to uplift those around me as well. Every spoken word, every painted stroke, and every shared silence became part of a greater narrative, one where growth was celebrated and healing thrived. In this abundant journey, I transformed from a person merely surviving to a vibrant force in a compassionate community. I not only created a legacy of healing for myself, but also for others who would step forward and share their stories, fostering greater connection and understanding. As I embraced my evolving identity, I welcomed the beauty of imperfection, the original art of living fully, authentically, and unapologetically.